Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this narration of the book A Brood of Two, taken from Reddit with the author's approval. If you're new to the series, there is a link to the playlist down below. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 15, Epilogue, A Change of Scenery. Dutch cried out in frustration as he lost yet another round to the Corlick poker. The Elise scaled fist slammed into the table, causing chips to fly about and fermented drinks to slosh around in half-empty glasses. Damn it, Graham! Those can only be so lucky. I'll get you this round, he drunkenly declared. Yes, boss, of course, Grant assured him as he raked in the winnings for his fourth consecutive round. A few other aliens at the table groaned and complained, but put forward the chips for another hand. One of them spilling what was left of his Gekna spirit on himself. Grant concealed his smile behind his small sip of water. I'll lose one of these days. Here, Dutch replied with his toothy more. Yes! Jask flinched, turning to face his uncle from the table opposite him. Yeah? Dutch wiggled his now empty glass and held it out to him. Jask grunted, standing up and taking the glass and the accompanying keycard. Fine, I'll get you more beer. The Yali marched off towards the other end of the crowded canteen to the bar. He slotted the keycard into a small aperture next to a series of dispensers, plugging in the codes for a beer on the captain's tab. After a moment of thought, he put in a request for a second beverage and charged it to his account. Sighing, Jask rubbed his head, waiting for the drinks to be dispensed. The background noise and the vid screen on the wall covered up by the boisterous laughter or heated arguments between the crew members present. Hey-o, little Scales, how's your day been? A gravelly voice came to his side's head. A bit crap, not gonna lie. I've been stacking crates all bloody day, he said, turning to face the red-scaled Draktar beside him. And just about every other day for the past 8 months. You, Vesh? All right, I guess. Been laying in about boarding party lads and sparring mats. None of them can put up a live fight for longer than a few seconds. It's not really that fun. Vesh angled his eye on his head to look at the vidscreen. Anything interesting on there? The dispensers let out a small ding as the glasses were finally filled with alcohol. Jas picked up the drinks and turned his head to look at the vidscreen. Nah, just some news about the Hell Eyes making a treaty with the humans, he said. Images of the small segments of video flicked by, some displaying national speakers shaking hands and papers being signed. You ever heard of a human? Let's have a look, said Smash, fishing a nose-plug-looking device out of his vest pocket at his vest. The images and the accompanying text shifted, displaying the signing of an earlier treaty between the Chaks and the Halkazar. Huh, the war's actually over. Guess Samantha got a little wish fulfilled, Jask muttered while taking a drink of his beer. It was then that the news feed switched back to displaying the solar calendar accords being signed, with Samantha and Bitey visible in the wide shot of the room. Caught in a moment of surprise, Jask accidentally inhaled some of his drink. What the fuck? He managed to wheeze out. Vesh paused for a moment, more than a little confused as to why the Eli had choked on his own drink so suddenly. The Draktar shrugged and put the device onto the end of his snout. With a small series of clinks it unfurled to cover his heat-sensitive pits. He finally turned his head to face the screen, now able to see the visible light as it was translated to infrared, as Jask cleared the last of the alcohol from his simple respiratory airways. Ah, by my ancestors, it's him! Vash shouted, slamming both of his fists into a nearby table with enough force to cut through the prodigious din of them. Oh, and that weird girlie! The canteen goes silent for a moment as the attention to Vass and Jask, who both awkwardly apologized for the disruption. Hold on, you know them? Jask quietly asked the large hunter. Yeah, kind of, that... he started, waiting for the program to show up again. That magnificent bastard! He pointed at Bitey on the screen. He owes me a jewel. The warrior even formally agreed to it. My family hasn't had an alien give such an honor in a while. You were on that planet for half an hour. How the hell did you meet Bitey and get him to swear to a jewel? The girlie arranged it. Samantha arranged a death match. It made sense. Killing a one-armed fighter wasn't right, Eve answered. With all the political gents like that, no wonder she's a queen now. Wait, is what now? Jask muttered. A provisional queen, elected positions for the bugs. She's got a sash and everything. Jask, more than a little flabbergasted, tried to speak, but was silenced as Smash raised one of his hands to stop him. Before you ask how I know that, a good fighter has to know his quarry. Jacks are good sport, so it's only fair that I learn about them. That's, fair, I guess, Jask muttered, bringing his glass up to take a second attempt at a drink. Typical Lucky Sam, he thought to himself. So then, Jask, how do you know their names? Jask choked on his drink for the second time within a minute. Vesh laughed at the display, slapping the amphibious alien on the back tightly. Don't worry, I'm just messing with you. I already know the truth, more or less. You can't hide crap when you've got a nose like mine. At least not with the way you retell your tale of survival. Yeah, whatever. What do you want? Jas demanded, having cleared his throat much quicker this time. Nothing, mate, he's answered frankly. Although I'd like to find the fight Bitey again. Oh, and the news says his name's Sarkish now, sir. He must have got knighted. Well, good for you. If you don't mind, I have, a beer too. Jas grumped and quickly trailed off. A messy paw, a drunken uncle for his boss. More crates and stacks day after day after day. Once again, he had no plan aside from just making it to the next day. Damn it, this job had not changed anything in his life. Why hadn't he noticed sooner? He needed something new. Something new. You right, mate? Vesh asked with a frozen Yili before him. Without warning, Jask chugged the beer in a matter of moments, slamming the empty glass on the table. Inhaled deeply and exhaled sharply. Can I come with you to find Bitey and Samantha? Yeah, sure, why not? The more the merrier, but, if you don't mind me asking, why? Jask let out a heavy sigh and shrugged. I don't know. I guess I just need a change of pace. Maybe a new story to tell. Besides, you'll probably roll up to some kind of Chak's embassy and get torn to shreds with your attitude. I can't just let that happen to you, he replied. Oh, you some kind of expert in getting buddy-buddy with the bugs, Vesh joked. Not exactly, but I got some good advice from what just might be the leading Chak's USO relations expert. Vesh took a moment to scent the air with his preternatural sense and gauge the truth in Jask's statement. To his interest, Jask was telling the truth. All right, then. What do you need to do to get on that side? Give him a belly rub. Feed him some poor, unfortunate soul. Jask snorted in amusement. Nah, nothing like that. Jask dismissed the claim. Vesh tilted his head to cast an imploring look at the Yili, a rather strange expression for someone without the eyes. Jask smiled as he recalled some of the first awkward words spoken to him by a good friend. Just, ask nicely. A change of pace. Cavernous, imposing, dimly lit. Even Opal seemed small in the hall as large as this. Intricately carved stone pillars displaying generations of history. The walls, far away and dark as they were, displayed magnificent frescoes depicting the numerous Commonwealth empresses and their councils dating back to the years of the Unification Wars. As depicted time went by across the walls, the number of queens rose from just the first empress to a handful of queens to the full complement of 12. A few paintings had the council seats in minuscule walkers. The events that led to that weren't particularly difficult to figure out. Are we certain this is the right thing to do? High Queen Jasper Dalbren, 6th seat, voiced her concern. It's barely been a year, and we're already considering letting hind legs roam around in our own territory as they were on our own. I can't be the only one who sees the inherent danger in this. Her bronze-colored head flicked from side to side, observing the rainbow colors of the queens around her. The High Queens, seated around the circular table, muttered amongst each other as Opal waited patiently in the empty center. A vibrant blue-colored Jax with feathery girl extensions on her back waved a hand dismissively. Having humans empty out our holding colonies is reducing a potential danger more so than inviting a new one. It speeds up living space and solves the moral crisis of detaining the hind legs simultaneously. A few contacts have already informed me that Skrellis B6 has been emptied and its population have found effective employment under human worlds. Jade Whalen, fourth seat, bobbed her head in agreement. The Jade Brood has been given an unprecedented opportunity to expand our farming operations with freeing of Skrellis B6. Our projections see us recovering from the population lost in the war within 4 years. The humans are a boon to the Commonwealth.
They are a threat, Amethyst Balvec declared. My agents just last week have discovered that the humans are in talks with the Lee. The humans are... Enough, please, the Black Jacks at the head of the table commanded. The queens at the table stopped muttering.
I apologize, Empress. I was merely concerned for the sake...
I am aware of your intentions, Amethyst, but our policy regarding humans has already been discussed. As for the Yali, it is the reason this moot was actually called. Opal, do you mind explaining what this is all about?
11 insectoid heads shifted to focus on the pale queen at the center. No, of course, my Empress. Opal swept her hand forward to interface with a hollow visor, sending file over to the vid screens in front of the High Queens present. Ladies, the humans are buying out the Yali. A deafening silence fell over the room as they read through the document.
What?
Sapphire asked, voicing the thoughts of the other chacks around her. How are the humans going to purchase their way into making them friendly? They're trading their workers, Opal answered. Quiet again. Opal loved hearing the prissy monarchs mutter their concerns. Jasper leaned in. Now allies are buying slaves, she inquired.
Yes and no. It's been dubbed the Souls for Steel initiative by their president. The humans are trading their AI-piloted factory robots for the Yali slaves. The machines, of course, are far more efficient than the people the Yali use and are something only the humans can produce and are willing to sell.
I think I know where this is going, the red-hued queen chimed in. Various Yali companies are fighting to get their hands on the new merchandise and to deprive their competitors of superior workers. This, in turn, is probably causing said-deprived companies to play whatever cards they can to garner the humans' favor in priority shipments, which would then start causing competition of some kind, which would then escalate to... Ruby Gabriel reasoned. Oh my, their entire society might be in turmoil. It couldn't have been that easy. Right? Opal merely chittered in amusement at that statement. I'm afraid to say that it was, Ruby. A few years' investment in advancing machine intelligence and an open diplomatic channel is all that would have taken to cripple one of our oldest foes. I suppose we didn't exactly have either at hand, Ruby Gabriel mused. So then, when can we expect this peace treaty? She half-joked. A few weeks, according to my contact in the Solar Confederacy, Opal curtly replied. A couple queens snickered at the ridiculousness of it all. The rest remained stunned silence. And the Souls part of the initiative? Amethyst asked. What happens to them? About a concern, said Opal. The humans give them new IDs, run them through the bureaucracy of their citizenship program, and put them down as suitable planets. It is the same thing that they do with the POWs in our holding colonies. Actually, I wanted to ask about that, the Empress said. Of what benefit does taking the hind legs off of us benefit the humans? Oh, galactic politics, mostly. Opal addressed her only true superior. It helps with their appeal to join the USO and have so many different species coexisting within their borders. Outside of that, it's additional hands and new perspectives. At least, that's what I've been told. I'm grateful to be able to report that we have nothing to indicate that this is not the case, too. The Empress nodded and preened the sensory spines on the back of her head contemplatively. So our allies have made a business deal, and that's beneficial to everyone. I don't think what's happening to the Yali can be considered beneficial in their eyes, Opal suggested. Perhaps not in the short term, but I can imagine there's a lot of happy shareholders in DICE right now. The worst of their civilization are also probably actively culling themselves as we speak. People trafficking suddenly went from very profitable to unsustainable. If that isn't beneficial, I don't know what is. Multiple words of agreement came from the council around Opal. Well,
If that is resolved, are there any other matters that need to be brought up, Opal? Yes, actually, she said, gesturing again to send the second document. Opal expected this particular idea to be a shock, but the sheer silence, for a minute no less, was more than she expected. You can't be serious, Amethyst said. You've gone mad. The years have finally gotten to you. Rude, Opal remarked. Maybe it's the human. Harebrained schemes seem to be their forte, Sapphire reasoned. It's not a maybe. Queen Amber is the authority of this document. The Empress corrected, and this is a bit much from you, even considering your record. Doing this could antagonize the entire USO, Opal, not just the nations on our borders. With all due respect, Empress, it's far from one of the most radical positions put forward by the Council within the past year. We would have the humans, Alcazar, and now the Yili backing us. I'd say it stands to reason that it is the next step considering the series of events so far. I suppose so, the Empress sighed. It just feels, very wrong. Even if it is the right thing to do. Does anyone object to the proposal made by Amber Poe and put forward by Opal Kalani? She cast her gaze at the royalty at the table, finding no shaking heads or words of dismissal. Okay then, we will need a representative for this mission. Do you have any suggestions? Opal stepped forward. No! Everyone, the Queen present, more or less yelled at her. Don't even try it. Not after what she did the last time she appeared here, the Empress groaned. Queen Amber would be the very last person that we would send. A change of heart. Grand Unit 2, do you have any idea when Miss Anatoni will arrive? A little grey alien asked, rapping his fingers against the table he was sitting behind. The circular chrome inlay on the ceiling pulsed with lines of blue light as the ancient AI acknowledged the question. The white circle in the blue orb that was the ocular sensor shifted to focus on the Chancellor of the USO Senate. A disembodied voice replied, deep, cold, and mechanical. Yes, Chancellor. They are approaching this room from the adjoining hallway as we speak. Estimated arrival time, 1 minute. Genix did not bother with the response. G Unit 2 was a machine. Its purpose was to serve the Zaneshi Order. Although there was a point to be made that it was the Zaneshi Sentinels that ran the USO, not the Order. Perhaps the Order was an accessory to the Sentinels and not the other way around. Whatever. It didn't matter about manners. Why should he? He peered down from his position at the central desk 4 rows up from the floor. The so-called throne the others had taken to calling it. Disrespectful younger races. Each would struggle to achieve a mere century of life. Gedzix could easily live another 3 to comfortably retire at his 8th. Okay, easily was probably a misnomer. Single-century-old Zaneshi tend to be reckless with how they spend their years, which was what the Sentinels were built for. To keep the Zaneshi safe, with mixed results. Millennia of experience still couldn't anticipate juvenile stupidity. His eyes splitted from one side of the semicircular chamber to another. Every representative aside from the human was present. The Erba were talking with the Yali. The Dactyl representative was remaining stoic as usual. The Chakra, the Yejum, the Sacrum were having a chat in their own corner. Minister Trest and the Kalor Imperium was, twitching. Minister, are you all right? Genzix called out to Nikolari to get his attention. The Alcazar did not respond, instead continuing to nod his head. Was he having a seizure? Minister Trest! The middle-aged man jumped, frantically fishing his earbuds out of his auditory organs. Yes, Chancellor? Good. He wasn't having a medical emergency. You were, Genzix waved a hand, trying to get the right words. Bobbing. Are you fine? Yes, Chancellor, just fine, quite fine, very fine, he blabbed out. Genzix narrowed his eyes. Have you taken a controlled substance? Oh, no, Chancellor, I have not. It was just music. I'm sorry. Music, what is, Chancellor? Genzix, Grand Unit 2 interrupted. The human. Genzix immediately straightened his posture to glower down at the new arrival. It appeared to be a well-dressed human male. Disturbingly, he appeared to have some kind of prosthetic arm that he made no attempt at hiding. The cold metal of his right hand was open to the air for all to see. Gen6 pulled his eye away from the thing to focus on the human as a whole.
Minister Anatoly, it is a pleasure to see you at last.
He greeted the man from across the room. It is a pleasure to see you too, Chancellor, Anatoly replied with a curt nod and a warm smile. If it isn't too much of a deposition, I've brought a +1 for a matter that I'd like to bring up today. She'll be here near the end of today's Congress.
So long as her presence is relevant.
Attention! Gen6 called out to the floor, garnering looks from all the representatives of the USO.
Before we begin today's proceedings, I think it prudent that we congratulate Minister Anatoly on his election to represent the Solar Confederation, and, by extension, humanity, on the United Species Organization Senate as its 28th member.
There was a small round of applause from the representatives, drawing out a bashful smile from the human as he took his seat.
Let us begin the proceedings, Minister Kelleck. If I remember correctly from last month, you wanted to propose a new bill to... The fifth proceeding will now be considered resolved. Moving into the sixth and final proceeding, Mr. Anatoly, you have the floor.
Gen6 was about done with all the contrived nonsense. If the other races just handed over their administrative work to an AI system and the Sentinels, he wouldn't have to waste hours of his life in a frankly pointless Senate. But it was what the Sentinels suggested, so it was what it was. It still didn't make it any less soul-sucking.
Ground Unit 2, do you know who the human's attaché is?
Gen6 whispered to the holopad. A small text box appeared in the corner of the screen function of the GU2's private method of reply.
The name listed is as Ruby.
That's it,
yes, Chancellor.
Gen6 shot the AI acceding with a disbelieving look. He'd known ground units to be able to skim through data nets and developing civilizations in seconds. GU3 alone had access to cameras of the Chakra as they made it to the stars and had obtained classified data from the top militaries without alerting them in the slightest. Hell, GU4 was responsible for monitoring humanity's progress in the past 300 years. Now a grand unit was telling him all they had was a name. The AI remained steadfast in his simple response, which only caused Gen6 to stare down the eye at the ceiling.
Are you withholding information for the safety of the order?
Yes, appeared on the screen of his holopad. Gen6's eyes flicked to the human as they made their way to the speaker's podium.
Am I privy to an answer?
Yes.
What is the danger?
The humans requested that we keep Ruby a surprise, for the sake of improving diplomatic relations, and because Ruby was deemed a non-threat. This was deemed acceptable. Now Gen6 was confused. It was then that Minister Anatoly spoke. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, for the Solar Confederation's first to the United Species Organization Senate, we would like to put forward an application for a new member species. Wait, what? I know. A new species so soon. Who are they? What are their beliefs? Do not worry, humanity can vouch for them. In fact, the vast majority of the people present should be very familiar with them by this point. Ruby, you may enter now. The muttering in the room fell to an absolute silence as they beheld the being that came through the doors. It marched in on 4 double-jointed legs. Fine silken ochre robes were draped over its deep red carapace. 2 sets of arms lay folded over the being's chest, each wrist resplendent in dangling fine jewels. On its back and mandibles it wore a set of pearlescent devices to translate its speech. Then there was the size of the being. He could almost see eye to eye with Gen6 on his desk on the top of the 4th row. He wanted to scream, to shout, to declare that this give rave insults to the entire Senate, to bring a creature so viscerally unsettling before them, however well dressed. It was akin to goating a chainsaw in glitter. But his mind stayed his mouth. His eyes traced over his stunned compatriots and very quickly spotted some notable outliers. First, it was the Yili. The 3 gentlemen that represented them had nothing but barely concealed grins on their faces. Not too surprising, all things considered. They'd been utterly fleecing the humans until they'd turned the entire trade situation on its head. A few power plays could have easily seen human suck-ups getting into power. Next was the Alcazar. Minister Trest had resigned grimace across his face. The man definitely didn't like the Czechs being here, but had to tolerate it nonetheless. Some political maneuvering was most likely at play there too. Gunboat diplomacy, he reckoned. However, the most concerning anomaly was none of the people below him. Genzex glanced up at Grand Unit 2, who was merely observing the commotion in complete silence, not reacting at all, letting the Czechs appear before the Senate. Genzex was there that fateful day 200 years ago, the day the Sentinels had appeared before the Zeneshi Order with the Species Development Report. Grand Unit 2's report. It was short, concise. There was no room for interpretation. They had determined that the Czechs were an existential threat to the Zeneshi species. They needed to be eradicated. No amount of discussion could extract the reason as to why they wanted them gone. Sure, their bodies were the stuff of nightmares, but much like a surgeon being exposed to gore, they could ignore it with time. Termination was unheard of. Immoral. But what the Sentinels suggested was what must be done, for they are the guardians of the Order. Their plans are our will, and our will is reality. The pieces were put in place. The tides of fate were manipulated. First contact was intentionally set up as a bloodbath. The rest was up to the chosen players, the Alcazar and the Yili being the perfect vectors to bring about the demise of the Czechs, unknowing pawns in a greater game. But now Grand Unit 2 had apparently changed its mind. Genzex would have expected the machine to destroy the Czechs the moment it set foot in the building. Instead, here a Czechs was, standing side by side with another freak of nature, a much smaller freak of nature, beaming with a wide smile. If it wasn't the Czechs as a species they wanted dead, why did they declare extermination to begin with? Something had changed.
They can't join. They're at war with the members of the Senate,
the Yajim screeched. No, Genzex reluctantly corrected, silencing the room again. The Czechs Commonwealth are no longer at war with any member of the USO. Their political relationship with the Solar Confederation and the treaties established with the Kalar Imperium are evidence for them being capable of coexistence, albeit only being a mere 2 years so far, he said. His eyes met those of the Czechs queen ahead of him. The 6 beady eyes stared into the dark voids of his own. Ruby bowed politely, acknowledging Genzek's support for her. He looked at Grand Unit 2 one more time. Its eye was focused on him, still as a frozen lake. Genzek's eyes flicked to his holopad. Nothing. The machine would not share his rationale. The Zeneshi let out a deep sigh, returning his gaze to the Czechs ahead of him. The Czechs Commonwealth will be considered for membership within the USO. We will proceed with vetting of their civilization, unless this order will be refuted by a vote of 2/3 majority against the decision. Those against the order, raise your limbs now. He scanned the room for a final time that day, finding only 3 raised hands. Not even the Draktor voted against it. I guess we're going to be friends with the Czechs now, Genzix thought. A brood of 2. Samantha! No response. Samantha! She rolled onto her side. Bitey huffed and looked around for a solution to the current predicament. He reached a claw into the rather spacious bedroom that had a door a tad too small for the Czechs to fit through. A hollow ding echoed through the room. "Oh, hey!" she exclaimed, shooting up from her bed and rubbing the back of her now sore head as her eyes tracked an empty beer can rolling along the floor. "Did you just throw that at me?" "Yes," Bitey deadpanned back. "Vocalizations did not raise you from your sleep." Her hand shifted to rub her forehead instead. "Vocalize quieter. Have a killer headache." Her train of thought ended as the beer came to a standstill amongst a pile of a few dozen others. "Well, that explains it." With great mental effort, Pam groggily shuffled out of bed. "Good morning, Bitey." "It is the afternoon," he replied. "Oh." The human took a moment to look around the room. The drawers were fine. There weren't any clothes scattered on the floor. Items were still on shelves, although a few were in more pieces than she remembered. There was a speaker lying on the side in the corner. Her waistband had even more beer cans stacked in it, and an empty bottle of spirits. "So, what did I do last night?" You do not remember?
I remember meeting up with some friends and then, that's where it cuts off.
They told me that might happen, Bitey sighed. We went to the multi-species bar to catch up with your friends from university. Jasmine suggested shots. Things escalated from there.
Yeah, okay. Keep going.
When Abigail fell out of a chair, I suggested we stop. Your clack refused. We reached a compromise with you heading home to continue your escapades. A few reporters attempted to intercept you on the monorail there, but I managed to shoo them away. When we reached the house, which is where we are right now, in case your memory is that fuzzy, your clack started to settle down. That is when Dylan showed up with a beer. He gestured to the stack of cans on the floor.
Ah, right. I think I can faintly remember that. Did he?
No. Did I? No! He left with James before he became inebriated.
Good, Samantha thought. I didn't mess that up.
I also believe he, left with James, considering the chemicals they were both giving off. Bitey continued. God damn it, why is it always the hot ones? Anything else? You played that music thing, dancing around, broke some material in your room, tried to get me to eat some footwear that smelt like Bracchus mushrooms, then passed out. Your clack sobered up about an hour afterwards and cleaned up your mess, he finished.
Sorry I had to put you through all of that,
Sam apologized, rubbing the back of her head sheepishly. It's part of the job, Bitey said, moving out of the way of Sam as she stumbled out of the room and into the hallway.
What?
The job of being the only steward to the smallest checks in the Brood Galaxy, she joked. And bodyguard, he corrected. But yes, it's a job. I even get a stipend from the Commonwealth every month.
Oh, so that's how you can afford a place down the road. I thought the FC was subsidizing it.
Sam made her way into the kitchen, leaving Bitey behind in the hallway. Bitey blinked a few times to process what the human had just said. Sam, I've been living here on Acadia for over a year. How did you not know this?
I don't know. I guess it never came up. Wait. Do I get a stipend from the Commonwealth too?
Yes, you get a stipend. Despite still studying for a degree, you are a Commonwealth's ambassador adjacent to humanity and a provisional Jack's Queen.
Nice, she comments, coming out of the kitchen with a steaming mug of coffee.
Anyway, I'm here to remind you that Opal is going to be meeting the human officials responsible for the Fault Gates project in Solar Territory in 3 hours. She wants you to join.
Great. More meetings. Never ends, she muttered. That's the only reason you're here.
Bitey nods in response. That, and because it's my duty.
You sure you weren't feeling lonely? Samantha smirked, taking a sip of coffee and watching him as he balked at the statement.
Lonely, he said incredulously. Not since I've been around you insufferable humans.
End of chapter. End of story.
Just a quick shout out to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Cat Crab Lobster, Data Magnet, Dark Machine, Bezic, Try Again 95, Pudic Yol, Astrea the Dreamer, Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Ithilia, Meridian 117, and Jordan Bucksmorm. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.